Hey guys, welcome back to our study of the Cold War. In this section we're going to talk about the Cold War at home. Again, the Cold War heating up in areas of China and Korea, and the apparent failure of the Truman Doctrine and the policy of containment leads to a growing fear of communism here in the United States. And I've alluded to that in the last couple of sections, so this section here is going to really focus in on that fear of the spread of communism in the United States. There's three big reasons why American people had that fear. One was Stalin taking over essentially all of Eastern Europe. Two, the communist takeover of China, and also add to that the communist takeover in Korea, North Korea. And then over 100,000 Americans claimed to be part of the Communist political party during World War II. So we have a lot of the American people have a lot of fear in the 1950s of this spreading of communism. Under advisement, President Truman creates the Federal Employee Loyalty Program, which in turn creates the Loyalty Review Board, essentially government employees being questioned as to where their loyalties lie. Complete violation of the Constitution, of these people's constitutional rights. But between 1947 and 1951, 3.2 million government employees are questioned. As a result of that questioning, 212 employees are released to be found having communist sympathies. 2,900 employees resign before they can ever be questioned, whether that's because they were being afraid of or were afraid of being found out, or just basically standing up for their rights. So to protest, they quit their job. Nevertheless, they do. 2,900 people resign before they could ever be questioned by this review board. Those individuals who are questioned are never allowed to see the evidence against them, and that's a key piece of information when we get later on into this presentation. Government propaganda you see here. Who are the Reds? Reds referring to communism. Congress doesn't think the Loyalty Review Board is doing enough, so Congress creates the House Un-American Activities Committee, again created completely by Congress, and now we see questioning of peoples inside and outside the government. And this committee is very famous for its attack of the Hollywood industry. Congress believes that Hollywood is using its films to spread propaganda, communist propaganda, and they cite as their evidence a World War II pro-Soviet movies that were used to support the communist cause and standing up against the Nazi Germany at the time, and that was back when Soviets were an ally. At the time, these movies were praised for their support of the Soviet Union. Now they're being used to show how people are communists against the United States government. HUAC subpoenas 43 witnesses in 1947. Some of them are friendly, some are considered unfriendly. The friendly ones, I guess they were people who were clearly in support of the American government. The unfriendlies were the ones who were unknown, and the questioning is going to make it known whether they're communist sympathizers or not. 10 movie producers, 10 people out of Hollywood refuse to answer questions because, again, they think the questioning is unconstitutional. They are sent to prison because of their contempt of this congressional court. Making even further gains toward this communist witch hunt, the McCarran Act is passed again by Congress because they don't think Truman's doing enough. And Truman tries to veto the act, but there's enough people in Congress in favor of the act to override the presidential veto. Truman makes a public statement, says, in a free country we punish men for their crimes, not for their opinions. But that was just Truman going on the record to show that he was opposed to the McCarran Act. Two big spy cases take place during this time period in United States history. The first, Alger Hiss, he's accused of spying for the Soviet Union. His espionage can never be proven. The case is taken up by a young senator, Richard Nixon. He'll become famous in the 50s and 60s. Eventually Hiss is sent to prison, even though the charges against him are very weak. Now in 1990, Russia releases documents that prove that Hiss was a spy for Russia. And another very famous case during this time, that of the Rosenbergs, physicist, scientist Klaus Fuchs. Notice the spelling and the pronunciation there. Klaus Fuchs confirms that he had passed nuclear secrets to the Soviet Union, and in 1949 the American people learned that the Soviet Union had detonated an atomic bomb. And this is years before the experts have projected that the Soviet Union would have the capability to do so. So logically, the government thinks they've been given assistance, and Klaus Fuchs confirms that. He says, yes, I did give information to the Soviets that would speed up the process of making a bomb. And the way I got the information to them was through Mr. and Mrs. Rosenberg, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. The two Rosenbergs are arrested. They are put on trial. They are found guilty, and they are executed in 1953. The judge made it very clear his contempt for the Rosenbergs and what they had done to the American public and the American safety, and for the world, for that matter. He says, I believe your conduct in putting into the hands of the Russians the A-bomb, years before our scientists predicted Russia would perfect the bomb, has already caused, in my opinion, the communist aggression in Korea. So essentially he's claiming that the Soviet support of Korea and the North Korean success against UN forces in South Korea was due to the fact that the Rosenbergs gave them this weapon. Senator Joseph McCarthy from Wisconsin was a struggling senator. He was labeled as ineffective at best, and so he needs, in order to be reelected, he needs something that makes him stand out in the eyes of his voters, and he jumps on this bandwagon of the Red Scare or the Red Menace or this witch hunt for communism. And he goes very public with claiming that he has over 200 names, I believe, of people who he knows to be disloyal, people he knows to be communists. This unfair tactic of accusing people without evidence is called McCarthyism. McCarthy was very safe to never use anybody's name in public. He only announced the names of the people during these sessions of the Senate where he had political immunity or legal immunity from slander. Because he never really had any hard evidence, he would only use their names during Senate meetings. His downfall came in 1954 when he starts to accuse the U.S. Army of being infiltrated by communist sympathizers. Finally, the government has enough of it, and I believe it's Truman who basically says enough is enough. There's some really good primary source documents online of a letter sent by Truman to McCarthy, basically just blasting McCarthy for what he's doing to the United States Army. He says it's unfortunate that the people of Wisconsin have elected such a despicable character as Senator McCarthy. Eventually McCarthy will die of alcoholism, and his career was ruined before that, but he does pass away. So the United States continues on for its push against anti-communism in the United States. 39 states passed laws making it illegal to advocate a violent overthrow of the United States government, and the government continues to investigate unions, newspapers, and scientists for apparent support of the Communist Party. Guys, thanks a lot.